understand Mr. Fallon is back, and we will go back to him. Now, I now recognize Ms. Ocasio-Cortez.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'd like to thank all of our witnesses who are here today. And, I'd like to just jump straight into it. Mr. Hawley, thank you as well for being here. I just want to start off with a simple question. The spare parts that TransDigm supplied to the U.S. military were used in Afghanistan, correct? Mr. Hawley?
Excuse me, I was muted. I don't know the answer, but I would presume probably.
Well, TransDigm has supplied the U.S. military with spare parts for aircraft, such as the AH-64 Apache, the C-17 Globemaster III, the F-16 Fighting Falcon, and the CH-47 Chinook, correct?
I believe so. I don't know that whole list, but
well, each of those aircraft were used in Afghanistan. Now, TransDigm is the sole supplier for many of the spare parts that the Pentagon needs for these aircrafts. In other words, there is no question that the spare parts that TransDigm supplied to the U.S. military were used in Afghanistan. So, Mr. Hawley, it does seem like the war in Afghanistan was a boon for TransDigm, correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
You don't know. Well, I have some numbers here to give us an idea. According to the Wall Street Journal, since 2001, military outsourcing has pushed Pentagon spending to about $14 trillion. That's 12 zeros. And to give a comparison, even after averaging out that number over 20 years, that's at least 12 times the amount that we spend on an essential program like SNAP. And in essence, really, the United States and the U.S. government hid the real price tag of our war in Afghanistan in contracts with private companies like yours. According to Ms. Heidi Peltier at Brown University's Costs of War program, the U.S. military's reliance on contractors has led to the rise in a camo economy, in which the U.S. government camouflages the costs of war that might reduce public support for it. So $14 trillion were handed over to private industry, companies like TransDigm, but also Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and Boeing, without real transparency with the American public. So, Mr. Hawley, was there a net negative to TransDigm's bottom line, or has it been a net negative to TransDigm's bottom line that the war in Afghanistan has ended?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know where the total defense spending has gone. I think it's probably still stayed about flat. I just don't know the answer.
Okay, so as the executive chairman of TransDigm, you're not sure about the financial impact of military contracting with respect to Afghanistan with your company, despite the fact that it was one of the sole suppliers of many of the military supplies and contracts that they were using?
No, what I said is I am not sure specifically what the impact of the cessation of the fighting in Afghanistan was on the total buys that we got from the government. I just don't know how to parse that out.
And you don't have like a general idea, even if it's not a specific number?
I think that our defense business has been roughly flat, I believe, but I don't know the exact number.
Okay. Mr. Hawley, what was your compensation in 2020?
That's a public number, so you probably have it. I'm not looking at it. I think it was 68 million or thereabouts.
Mr. Stein, what was your compensation in 2020?
I think you have it. It was somewhere around 20 million.
Okay. And TransDigm, it does seem that in 2020, TransDigm did lay off its employees during this time as well. The company fired about 30% of its workforce in order to maintain a revenue stream. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe those numbers are accurate.
And even while the government paid TransDigm $1.5 billion in cash as part of a pandemic debt buyback program to prevent precisely those layoffs from occurring, you took home a total of $90 million in compensation during that time, more than the compensation of chief executives of Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and Raytheon combined. So let's talk about what contributed exactly to such exorbitant compensation. Now, TransDigm sells a part called a linear actuating cap. It's used in the Eagle F-15 and the Stratolifter C-135. It cost the company only $135 to produce. Now, Mr. Stein, how much did TransDigm charge the Pentagon for this $135 part?
About 10% less than what we charged the commercial world for this part.
Do you know how much that was?
About 10% less, yeah.
So about $7,495.
Yes, and the commercial part is $8,182.
And that's a profit margin about 3,850%.
No, that's not how you.
The gentlelady's time has expired. He can respond in writing to her question. Mr. Fallon, you're